Let's see here. Howdy, everybody. I'm going to just make sure that things are looking on the up and up. But here tonight for episode number 7 of Main Line and Beyond with Marc Singer. Doing this thing from home tonight. The maiden voyage. Got my good buddy Paddy McCann along.
How's it going, Mark?
Oh, it's going well. It's going well. I really am enjoying this show, and doing it from home is extra neat. So I'm excited about it, and this is laid back. This is fun. Trying to bring some enthusiasm to people about the music scene for sure. Every week I try and talk about different things that are going on, and the timing was just right to have you on because you have this big show coming up at the Ardmore Music Hall. But we'll get to that, because that's pretty exciting.
Very exciting. Very exciting. No, I'm happy to be here. We've been kind of hitting up a couple of different podcasts and Rob and Nikki's soundstage last week, so It's been cool kind of getting the hype together for the show on Friday at Ardmore.
One thing I never really mention is that this show is not edited at all.
Strictly, raw footage.
Yeah.
Kind of like it that way.
I ain't got time for that,
That's a very good point. I was going to just bring up that Corey Wong, who's got like the Corey Wong and the Wong Notes, and he has like a YouTube thing now. He was like, we cut everything live. He's like, because I don't got time to do edits and video edits and audio edits and all this kind of stuff. He's like, so we got to nail it right then, right there. So there's something about doing it right on the spot.
Yeah, that is funny. Perfect segue. We'll get to that too. Danny Mayer is our guest next week, and that's the name of his band. Nicely done. So, I can't think of too much, musical that had happened. Yeah, what did we do? No, in the last week, had you seen any live shows?
Didn't go to live shows this past week. I was supposed to try and go down to Billy Strings and AC, but that didn't work out. But, I think the week before, went to Dry Reef and Yam Yam at Ardmore. That was a killer show. Really, really good stuff.
Okay.
Yam Yam's from like Central PA. Dry Reef, they also totally crushed it. So I think those guys, they did like the Fly Eagles Fly riff, like Jimi Hendrix style, sort of like, it was beautiful. It was right before the Super Bowl. So
nice.
Everybody was feeling that. But yeah, great show. Ardmore, obviously, always providing amazing shows. So.
For sure, yeah. I'm not too familiar with them, but how would you describe their sound?
Dry Reef, they kind of gave me some like Vampire Weekend vibes and like some of that more like, I don't know, it's indie, but it's got like kind of a tropical vibe to it at certain points, or maybe like some like African rhythms and stuff like that. Just like real bouncy, kind of happy stuff. But they brought it home, man. I will be following Dry Reef. They did a great job.
Okay, nice.
Yam Yam's incredible as well. That's a foregone. Everybody knows Yam Yam rocks. They got the brass. They've got some funky vibes. So.
Got it. Yeah, funk grooves and horns.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I got to get hip to them. All right, nice. So, we first crossed paths. We were just talking about it. I had a little coffee shop in Havertown, for those that don't know, called the Oakmont Roots Cafe, which is still a coffee shop with a different name there on Darby Road called House Cup Coffee. And essentially what it was, the first locally sourced coffee shop in Havertown. And it's pretty cool because the House Cup that now owns it was my coffee supplier, and they were roasting the coffee right in Havertown. And Paddy's brother, Matty?
Yeah, we'll go Matt.
Is vegan, so he popped in to talk music and get some vegan pastries.
Yeah, that was great. I mean, it was kind of just stumbling upon it, and then I think I even maybe saw that you were doing some music. Was there like solo acoustic things?
Yeah, we did a little bit of that.
I think that's when I started piecing it together, and then of course, like, Facebook connects you and mutual friends and all that stuff, and I was like, oh, I know this guy. I see this guy all the time. So Yeah, stoked to be, friends and stoked to be seeing you on stage and all that good stuff. I was at your last Brooklyn Bowl show.
That's right.
Absolutely killer, man.
Thanks, man.
Yeah,
we had a lot of fun. That room, much like Ardmore, it's just a blessing, and it's a big stage, nice sound. So, it was a good, and then everyone's just like having whether they're eating or bowling, it's like a big circus, essentially.
Yeah, the band was bringing it that night too, man. Obviously, the rhythm section is just tight as can be and just thunderous. And I was loving what Adam was doing on the keys. And I was just soaking it all up. It was great. Me and JP, my guitar player, were there. Just like, oh yeah, this is what we needed. Right
on. Thanks, man. I like JP. He's a great player too.
Yeah, phenomenal player.
But yeah, that's the thing. Where we're at right now is kind of on the more quantity over quality in terms of gigs. So it might only be 1 or 2 gigs a month, but they're good gigs.
Yeah.
So that's the way we're doing it, and it's a little challenging, but not. I'm blessed to have my 2 little girls, so it's good to spend time at home too. So
there's got to be a balance, man. That's very important because it'll rip you apart if not. It's very easy to want to just go and like not take a second to think or breathe, but yeah, you need that. I think we all found that out with quarantine and all that stuff. Like even the guys touring on 200 dates a year were like, man, I think I actually needed that break for a little bit, that reprieve, that breath of fresh air. So
it's not all it's cracked up to be, man. I remember one time I saw O'Teal Burbridge's band at what was North by Northwest, which was in Germantown, on a Wednesday night, man.
Wow.
And the show was unbelievable, but no one was there. It was like, I've like 5 people that were paying attention.
Yeah, that hurts your soul a little bit. That hurts.
Yeah, and that's O'Teal, man. Freaking O'Teal and the Peacemakers. That was the name of his band, O'Teal and the Peacemakers.
Oh, okay.
And I bring it up also because you mentioned Life on the Road, and I was talking to his guitar player after the show, and he was just like, saying how he's washing his drawers in the sink, in the motel sink, and stuff like that, But hey, it's definitely a life. It's a lifestyle.
Yeah, but I think like taking away from, quarantine and all this stuff is that people are starting to find that balance, and they're like, you know what? There is merit in less, like you said, quality over quantity. Like people understand it too. I think people get that like the more you have this time, the more you get to do the stage thing. It's there's the balance, it's rewarding, but people I think are understanding more of it now. Like kind of like people coming out to shows because they're just dying for live music. People also understand these guys have lives. They're not doing this, like I said, 200 dates a year and that sort of thing. So it's like we'll give them some leeway if they're not in town for a month or 2 months, or they're not playing every week. It's like let's take a breath here. Let's take a breather.
Yeah, for sure, man. So I know when we first met and we were talking about music, you were just like very casual and saying like, because I was like, well, what do you play? And you're like, whatever I need to, or something like that, pretty much.
That's a good way. Yeah, that sounds like me.
So, and I've noticed that, man. Didn't you play drums recently on a tour or something like that?
Yeah, our summer tour, we were going down as far south as like South Carolina. And I was playing some drums. I mean, at one point I was kind of the steady drummer, and then I stepped, over to the guitar player and lead singing and that sort of thing. But, when someone's asking me, hey, can you hop back in, especially for the original music, I know it like the back of my hand. So, I'll get through with a very cursory remedial, drumming, but like, I also like to just have fun. So I'll do more of dancey beats and stuff like that because it's like, hey, I can't do the swing technical, this, that, and the other, but we're going to have a blast tonight. We're going to have a dance party going on. Right. People are going to be on the floor.
Floor to floor.
Yeah,
that kind of vibe going on. Yeah.
But, it's like it comes in waves and that sort of thing. But I think being a guitar player and, having played bass, the more sides of the table you've seen, you can bring that to that instrument. You're like, you know what? I always had that drummer who was doing too much of this. I'm on the drums now, I'll do less of that. So it's like having that perspective, you can be like, oh, the bass player would love if I dropped out the kick drum right here, or, you know, did this, that, and the other. Like, having that informed view is pretty cool. Like, yeah, it's a beautiful thing. I don't know. I like playing all these different instruments. It's
totally, cool. Man. It's very cool. Yeah. So your brother is still living in California, or where's he at now?
Now in the past year he moved to Asheville from California. He was living in Santa Cruz, but yeah, they're living in Asheville, North Carolina, and that's become one of our hubs, which is kind of cool.
Sweet.
So we played down there a couple times. We were just down there in January, and they were playing at like the one stop at the Asheville Music Hall, which is the other AMH, which is very, very confusing for me, playing two different AMHs in the same tour. I'm like, all right, I think they put an AVL at the bottom of theirs. Like, it's like how they distinguish it, but very, very cool area. And it kind of actually reminds me of like Santa Cruz, oddly. Like, it's more mountainous, like the Appalachians and all that stuff, the Blue Ridge. So. Yeah, beautiful area. Love that I get to go visit my nieces and all that stuff, and, you know, play a couple of shows down there. People are, loving live music down in that little quadrant.
Yeah. The first time I was down there was for the Warren Haynes Christmas Jam, which if you've never gone, that's a good time.
Man,
yeah.
I'm so glad that it's back up and running too. I know that like there was like a year off or something like that, and I was like, oh, please don't let it be the end of the Christmas Jam. Like, there's legendary moments that happen there. Like, didn't Dave Grohl play? He like played with, like, I think he sat in at the Christmas Jam, and they did Keep on Rockin' in the Free World into Machine Gun back into Keep on Rockin' in the Free World. Like, they were like teasing like dun, 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 like the Jimmy tune, and then like all of a sudden they actually drop right into it. And I'm like, dude, Dave Grohl, Warren, like, what is going on right now? This is like wild worlds, you know, coming together. And yeah, it was cool to see, you know, the jam scene's biggest guy and like music's biggest guy. I mean, Dave Grohl's, you know, huge, and like the meeting of the minds, you know, down in Asheville, down in the mountains, like.
Yeah. Well, and it goes till like 3 or 4. At least the one I went to. I only went to one. I want to say it was 2003, but it was unbelievable, and it went late. It went till 3 or 4 in the morning, and then the jams, like even through the day leading up to it. You know, it's a good time. You know.
And I'm sure you saw some people before they were huge too. Like he usually picked a couple of people who were like on the up and up, and like, I don't know. I always see like he's just got like some small artist who a year later is huge, like Michaela Davis. I feel like maybe played there. Yeah, I just love that. Like, he's not just like, this is the obviously who's who of the jam scene, but I'm also gonna give you maybe early in the day some, you know, other cool, newer upcoming people, some younger folks. Like, I can imagine like a Marcus King being.
Oh yeah. Well, he joined his record label and everything. So yeah, that definitely. I don't know. I'm sure he did eventually have him at the Christmas Jam. I don't know if that's where he initially introduced him to the world, but anyway, yeah, Asheville is a cool town for sure.
Yeah,
we went on a little tour and ended up, you know, we went through DC area, then Roanoke.
Yeah.
And then hit up Asheville.
Yeah, we were just in Floyd, which is just south of Roanoke, and this place, the Dogtown Roadhouse. Love this spot. Gotta look it up. Totally cool place. Floyd Fest is in there.
Right. That's what I was gonna say. Floyd Fest. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're gonna be back there in like July and in September. Like they want us over. Totally cool little town. Like, I think they've got one traffic light in the town, sort of thing. But it's a beautiful spot.
Nice.
Like, we're just like, oh my goodness. Like, you don't know what you expect when you walk into a small town, and everybody's just beautiful, and, you know, just supporting the local scene and all that kind of stuff. So
sweet.
Yeah, loving being out on the road with all these people. It's awesome.
Yeah, no, I love to travel too, you know, see new places and play music. You can't beat that.
Oh my goodness, man. I mean, you get to kind of learn a little bit about the town via playing the show there too, like the people who come talk to you, just even like the good food spot in town. You're like, oh, the barbecue place is killer down there. You got to check out Tom's Smokehouse.
Right.
Oh, cool. Now I know they do dope barbecue in, you know, that little section of town. But yeah, it's cool to, like, you kind of get a fast track, like, feel of what this town's going to be like via, getting that culture and getting that vibe or whatever. But then you're gone, and then you're out of town, and then you're on to the next thing.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the beauty of it, I suppose.
Yeah. But I mean, playing in some of these venues, and then you hear about somebody big who did play there when they were younger. Like we played in South Carolina in Greenville at this place Got Rocks, and they were like, yeah, Derek played here when he was first starting out, right. And Warren Haynes grew up like less than an hour, Marcus King, like all these guys, right. And I'm like, whoa, like I'm so far out of my comfort, like my area of knowledge. I'm like, I'm going to learn a little bit about South Carolina. And since then, I've just been, digging in more and more about, the history of all the musicians in that area.
Okay.
It's just really cool. Like, I wouldn't have done that research if I wasn't, in Greenville proper and, feeling it out myself. So.
Right. I knew Marcus King was from right around there, or in Greenville maybe even. But
I know Spartansburg is part of it or something like that. Maybe he was born there. Yeah, but beautiful area. Mm-hmm. Love that, like, you kind of get like the tail end of the Appalachian Mountains too. So like if you're, into hiking and all that kind of stuff, maybe you could get a quick hike in. But, from being up in the PA area, you get your perspective of the Appalachians from, the Poconos and this, that, and the other.
Right.
But it's a different monster in, the North and the South. Like it's got its own vibe, up in upstate New York and, as far south as South Carolina and Georgia and all that.
For sure. Yeah, being such a fan of the Allman Brothers, I had to go see them down south at least one time, but I ended up seeing them 2 times. I was drove down to Charlotte, North Carolina, and caught them down there,
Nice.
And that was a great time. And Virginia Beach made it down there for
sure.
Too.
Beautiful.
Good time. Yeah, so tell me a little bit about your journey toward music and everything.
My journey started, I think, when I was like 12 or 13. My brother Matt, him and I basically started, somewhat together. He was like, I need a guy to play some rhythm guitar while I do some soloing. It's like, you got a brother in-house. Let's work it out. So I think like maybe even like my first song I ever learned was like Loser or like Sultans of Swing or something like that. Just on rhythm, so he could do the songs that, our dad liked and all that kind of stuff. And,
okay.
But, I mean, it was, definitely a fast track. Like, here, you got to learn these things so that we can, jam more and do different songs. But, yeah, from there, I mean, I was trying to get my hands on any instrument I could and, mess around with a little bit of keyboards. And eventually I got really into, like, computer stuff with engineering. I think when I was like 16, I was starting with like Pro Tools, and that was like definitely the primitive era of Pro Tools. Everything was like key shortcuts and like, you had to know your way around. Like you couldn't just click and go sort of thing. It was like very professional, and that gave me like a really good like regimented way of engineering, just even as a kid sort of thing. I was like, man, I know what compressors do, and I know why people put this EQ here. So that was like another valuable tool, was to be like, able to help capture whatever jam was happening at whatever house. Mm. And then my brother and I started a band, I want to say 2010, called The like The Usual.
Nice.
And we were like a 4-piece, trying to do jam stuff and all that good stuff. And, we were together for like 2 or 3 years, and that definitely informed like, the business side of things and just kind of the teamwork and the responsibilities. And yeah, and in the meantime, I kind of started doing like house music producing just of my own. I was like, you know what? Why don't I start making some dance tracks that, just a little fun application of, the things that I've learned. And yeah, I do that just kind of on the side. I'm like, I'll make a hip hop track today. I'm going to make like, some dance grooves.
Just instrumental stuff or with lyrics?
It's mostly instrumental, but I've definitely, during quarantine, I put out like 2 little like 3-song EPs, and one of them had like some vocals where like I was doing some like Barry White, like deep deep kind of chest vocals, and like
Whoa.
I was just like, you know what, let's have fun with it. Like everybody was cooped up inside, like so I put out these like 2 or 3 EPs, and it was just like, oh man, like this is a fun outlet. I don't expect to do this full time, but it got it out of my head. It's creativity that just keeps on churning. Like I'm a big proponent of like, you can't write that really awesome song if you haven't like worked on a couple of things that led you to getting to that song. Like so many people dog on like bad songs that people write, but then when they write that amazing song, they don't realize that like you had to have the bumps in the road, and like you just have to kind of flush out creativity, and sometimes it's the best one, sometimes it's the worst one, but like if you're not doing it at all, you're not just going to immediately hit this, you know, home run of a track sort of thing. Like you kind of have to like, you know, build up the stamina and that sort of thing. So yeah, that's what I kind of did over the past couple of years, was convert that instrumental stuff over to writing, you know, full-on songs for the band and that sort of stuff.
Got it.
Yeah, that's kind of where we are today. The Muskrat started in 2018, like late 2018, and put out an album before they played a show, which is not something bands typically do with their original music. And yeah, we've toured locally for a couple of years, kind of feeling out the Philly scene, and we were like, you know what, it's time to get out of town, time to start working the you know, the scene in the Northeast.
Wasn't that place Crawley's kind of where you first started getting it together there?
Busty's is right,
okay,
right next to it.
right.
Yeah,
Okay.
Cawley's and Busty's are 1 and 1A there, you know, Upper Darby area. But yeah, we were playing in, you know, the tiniest of tiny. We were actually playing in like the, you know, there's a rectangular room, and we're playing to the like the width of it. We're playing to a wall because they had like a sidebar that was like just cramping everything up. We've since then, like, we took out the bar, and now it's actually like a really nice, like 25, 30 people, like in this little side room adjacent to the regular bar. But it was kind of cool to be like, if we move our headstock, we're going to smack somebody in the face.
It's like
we
that.
go from that to like, oh, you know, we could spread out a little bit more. And, you know, we would do like a every other Thursday sort of thing. And it definitely built momentum, just the jam band scene. I feel like people love, like, oh man, they played this week and they're back again for this. Like, I'll jump on that.
So let's talk about that, the jam band scene. You mentioned your dad being an influence. Was he into the Grateful Dead? Like, what?
Yeah.
When you say jam band for you, what led you? Like, was it the Dead, or were there other bands?
So he was a Grateful Dead fan, an Allman Brothers fan.
Okay.
I consider Dire Straits to be a jam band of sorts, even though people don't like to classify that. And then, I mean, he was definitely into like the prog stuff too, of Genesis and, you know, those types of things. Also, I think Skinner is a jam band too. So that Southern rock stuff with the Grateful Dead was definitely the jam influence, as, you know, for kids. But yeah, Matt was definitely the one who, you know, soaked up the first purchases of like the Fillmore East double discs, and then when my dad had to replace it because, you know, my brother took that double disc, I got the second one, and then he's like, dude, I've got 3 copies of Fillmore East now. And I'm like, I don't know where disc 2 is, Dad. I'm like, I'm so sorry. You know, I'm soaking it up so much that I lose the CD myself. But, you know, it was that way for every, you know, Dead cassette and all those types of things. We spent a lot of time driving down to like the Outer Banks when I was a kid. And you want to put on some Dead, it's going to take up hours of driving.
Right.
So, yeah, we had the cassettes going and all that good stuff. We would be driving through the night. This was me and my dad kind of hanging out, jamming out.
Just the two of you, huh?
Yeah, everybody else would be crashed. Like, everybody's trying to sleep and, like...
That's awesome.
Yeah. Going through different state by state, you know, listening to set 1, set 2.
Very cool.
My mom waking up in the middle of Drums in Space and being like, what's going
Yeah, that'll happen, especially then. Oh man. Well, it's funny because that obviously those bands didn't know what a jam band was really. They were just musicians that got together
Yep.
and had their influences, and it all kind of just formed this soul stew, or however you want to call it, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like they found the recipe from jazz. One of the first places in Philly that I would go to hear live music was this place, Ortlieb's, which is still there, but it's not what it was. It was a
Different vibe. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a classic jazz club with a lot of history there.
I didn't know that.
And it was the house band was just like second to none, man. This guy Mickey Roker on the drums, who played with Dizzy Gillespie, who.
Damn.
What struck me about him was he looked so relaxed. It was almost like he looked like he was half asleep.
Shit.
He was just killing it, man.
Damn. What a house band to have, though. Someone playing with Dizzy, that's crazy cool, man.
Yeah.
I would love to. Yeah. And I feel like Chris's Jazz, or what
That's
was
great too. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what was the next thing.
Zanzibar Blue was a place that went out. That was another jazz club around like City Hall, Center City area.
Yeah.
That was the same family, I think the Bynum family, that also owned Warm Daddies, which is where I first went to play when I was like kind of coming up. Because they have blues jams there, and I wasn't raised on the blues, but when I got into music, I wanted to dig a little deeper into the music I was listening to, which was a lot of Allman Brothers, CCR, Grateful Dead, things like that. I was like, who were they listening to? And it all took me back to guys like Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf, and
man.
So I'm like, no matter where you may want to grow. And truth be told, man, there's this mentality, I think, especially amongst guitar players, that blues is just easy and you just play it and then, that's just easy to do. But there are guys, my friend Mikey Jr. will be a guest on the show, who are really dialed into this playing and phrasing and tone that's just unbelievable, man.
Yeah.
And it takes years to do what they do, man.
I think those guys too, like the discipline of the blues, like I feel like less is more. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
right.
I feel like people overdoing the blues are saying like, oh, it's easy to do the blues. It's like, yeah, because you're playing it all. It's all happening. It's all you're doing all the notes. Like, okay, we get all the notes were there. Can you subtract like 30 of those?
It's more
notes?
about the space and tone, right? Now, totally. It is a lot to do with it. Guys that just can, and I always say that too, man, because it's like, for me, it's always about, not only on guitar, but any instrument, guys that have their signature sound. So, because there are guys that are virtuoso players that can play all over the neck, but a lot of times you can't tell one from the other.
Yeah.
So it's the guys that right away. That's their sound. That's what I'm like. That's deep.
Well, even just going back to like Mark Knopfler, like I love that. Although he can explode and do something, some of the coolest stuff he does is there. You can't even hear. He's not playing, and then he just does a little bend. Like he's doing like an accent bend, like he's already bent, and he's like, I don't know. He does so many cool little hammer-ons where you're just like, oh, that wasn't the flashy, like that wasn't overdoing it. That was just feeling that moment and like what that moment needed, not necessarily like I'm going to show everybody that I can do this scale really cool, or, like I'm in this really wild box or whatever. It's like, how about you just do a cool little flutter for a second? Like Derek does it all day, like literally just all left hand, just sliding up and down. He's not even doing anything with the right hand. He's just, and that's got like the Jeff Beck vibes to it and all that kind of stuff too. And
yeah, well, with him in the slide, I know he's talked a lot about copying even like gospel female vocal lines like Mahalia Jackson.
Yeah, man.
And listening to what she's singing and doing that on the slide, which is pretty, it's pretty sweet.
Well, there's something about, and I talked to Matt the other day about the vocal melodic stuff on guitar, and I love that, like, I'm not a great lead player, but like one thing I know how to do is just pick up on the vocal melody on the guitar just in an instant sort of thing. I think like what I found was that Doc Watson was like maybe the first to kind of be like, I'm going to do the vocal melody as the solo. You can sing along to it because it's exactly what I just sang in the verse and then in the chorus and that sort of thing. But people can familiarize themselves because they, Jerry would do it with, Peggy O. Like he would kind of start out like he was almost singing the verse and then he'd go off into something else, but he'd always reset back to kind of a little bit of a vocal melody, which
right.
I don't know. That stuff always just ends up being the most beautiful, like, and obviously recognizable stuff. But I always say that like an audience needs time to kind of catch on to what's happening, especially in a jam, because like, good Lord, everything's happening like a mile a second sort of thing. That's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. He's doing that. He's doing that.
Yeah.
You got to give like a little bit of repetition to kind of ease people into, the feeling of, oh, he's teasing a Madonna song right now. I know because he played the line 3 times.
Right.
If you played it once and you're like, no one got it. It's like, yeah, there's like 6 other things floating in the air right now. Like, you're one of those 6 things, but there's a lot going on. Like, they all have cool things happening. You got to make sure a little bit of repetition, a little bit of like familiarity, but yeah, the jams are interesting things, man. You can't just expect people to soak it all up and know exactly what's going on in an instant.
Right. No, and that's to me as a listener has always been some of the most exciting things about the jam band experience is like where is the jam going next?
Yep.
Which it's definitely something that's been fun in Steal Your Peach because we can take some unexpected turns because there are segues with the Grateful Dead that you hear China, you hear Rider, you hear these things in sequence where we can kind of like throw in little curveballs.
Yeah.
So I'm like I kind of always think about like what was fun for me as a listener and things like that.
Yeah, you can play on people's expectations a little bit too. You're like, oh, they're feeling it's going to happen and I'm about to fake them out into something completely different. This is going to be great. Like,
right.
I think I saw with the Brooklyn Bowl show, you guys dropped into Terrapin from something. Oh,
yeah,
man.
I think I was playing in the band maybe.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, whoa, this is not something easy to do. Like, going from the rhythm of playing into Terrapin. Like, I was like, this is a masterclass in, like, how to kind of play on people's expectations. People are expecting, like, maybe an Uncle John's or something like that, but I don't know too many people doing a playing into Terrapin. Like, that was wicked, man.
I think that was Anders' idea that time. So yeah, that's cool, man. That's funny.
Anders, you always do it. You always do it. Oh, shout out to Chelsea, by the way, too. She did an incredible job.
Yeah, she did.
Unbelievable job.
No doubt. That's right, Chelsea. You hear that?
Yeah.
She will be with us on St. Paddy's Day, March 17th at the Ardmore Music Hall with Ron Holloway.
Let's go.
That'll be fun, yeah. So, getting back to the reason why I mentioned Ortlieb's was just, again, that concept, that format, if you went there, you could see the musicians would play the head to a song and then each instrument would go around and take a solo, and they come back to the head and they take it out. And, that's essentially what happens in jam band music.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think, what differentiated, and I've talked about this on other episodes, but essentially, the earlier bands had these great songs. That's a bit of what I feel is missing today, is that, it's just like, some of the songs are written more to jam than the song.
Oh, yeah, I see what you mean,
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of an unfortunate state because I love the jams, but it's like the launch and like the return point that like lock you back in. Like that's what grounds you in the end is like, oh man, thank God that like the parachute came out and they're gonna land back in a plane or something familiar that I can sing along the final chorus or something along those lines.
Right.
It's massive, and I mean, the jam scene is filled with incredible players. Jamming could end up being 80% of their show, 90% of their show.
Right.
It's a lot.
And I'm fine. I mean, I dig instrumental music. So, but I mean, you guys have put out how many albums now?
We have one full-length album, and I think we put out a live album. We're actually going into the studio in April to record our next album, sophomore album. So I'm really stoked about that.
Nice.
Yeah, honestly, that album conceptually, just is one of those albums to us that's gonna be more about the song. There's maybe 2 songs with like a jam section or like an instrumental section, but some tighter 3-4 minute songs and stuff like that, which we kind of intentionally did. We didn't set out to write a second album that was full of huge, vast, 6 to 7 minute conceptual songs. We wanted some stuff that was tight, something that if we want to put a jam in the middle, sure, we can do that. But it's got to have a tight beginning, it's better, for this album for us to have familiarity, some songs that people can sing along to. Not that they don't for the first album, but some stuff that's just got, we're here, we're there, boom, tight, especially in a set list when you're like, hey, we got 4 minutes. So like, all right, well, the only song we have is a 10-minute song. It's like, okay, why didn't we write any 3-minute songs? Why didn't we write that short little brief one where, we can get it all done in a moment sort of thing. So, yeah, these new album songs, there's a couple bluegrass tunes on there. And, I just love that we went for like, maybe like more of a working man's Dead vibe versus like, the first album has a lot of creativity and a lot of expansive stuff going on. This feels like it's boiling down to like more of like the sharp, chorus, verse, chorus, just get really tight with it. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really, really been rewarding to kind of write that in, this type of jam climate and stuff like that,
Cool, man.
Yeah, man. Stoked.
I'm trying to, every conversation here, touch a little bit on how music has helped you, I just kind of from a mental health standpoint, just keep you grounded, and how it's helped you as a person,
That's, music.
I mean, you could spend a lot of time on this question. I understand.
I'm a huge proponent of the mental health thing, man. Like and music, like it's healing the audience, but I mean, it's creativity wise, it helps me every day. Like, when I was saying about those house tracks and stuff like that, I'm not doing that for monetization or for, to get a big DJ gig somewhere. Like, the band was writing tons of tracks while I'm doing that, but I needed something else that was an outlet just for my own mental state, because, dude, when you're recording an album, and I engineered the first album, like, to me, I can't sleep at night because thinking about that chorus or thinking about how we gotta, overdub this thing, and, maybe just like the earworm of the song is stuck in your head all night, and you're like, God, Whiskey Do is just the most annoying thing to me right now. I've heard it 500 times in the past week, but like, I had that creativity side to just be like, you know what, I'm gonna make a little house track or a little hip hop thing here, and then I forget about all of it for a minute. But like, even when music is the thing that's stressing you out, music still finds a way to help it. Like, it's a beautiful thing, man. It's so like, multifaceted. It helps, tons.
Something about just being in the ether of just the creativity, and totally.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I love writing music, love engineering and, producing it, and, I don't always get to, do the cool leads and solos on, the show, but the thing people always say to me, they're like, you were having a blast on stage. Mm-hmm. Like, aside from the music side of things, you were having so much fun. And I was like, you're damn right I am. I was like, if you're having half as much fun as I'm having, you're having a blast. Mm-hmm. And when I'm on stage, that's exactly how I feel. It's just like, you can't rob this. Like, this is my moment here. Like, I'm having a blast with these guys. They're having a blast out there. Like, let's just soak all this up in the moment. Like, that kind of takes away all the problems, man. Like, I love this shit. I love it.
Mm-hmm. Right on, man. Well, what is it? Do you have a regular day job these days, or is it just music?
No, I actually, I've been working at a private parking facility near the airport called Smart Park.
Okay.
And, we just take people up and back from the airport. They park at our parking lot sort of thing. But
right.
I've been there for 10 years. My dad actually worked there for like 25 years. So good company, local people. It's in Tinicum. But yeah, I worked there. I was doing driving, but I've done like supervising and all that good stuff.
Okay.
Kind of screwed up my back a little bit a couple months ago. So I'm doing like dispatching, so I kind of stay behind a microphone all day and tell people what to do and where to go.
Oh, okay. You got desk duty, huh?
Yeah. Which ironically, and this is a fun little segue, my grandfather is the original director of American Bandstand.
Oh. Okay.
From like
Dick Clark?
Yeah, even pre-Dick Clark. He was there for 17 years. And yeah, like all the most legendary performances that were happening at that time were pretty much bandstand driven stuff. I mean, people, getting huge record deals and all that kind of stuff was like all from bandstand. And my grandfather was the director, the guy telling the people what to do, via the microphone and that sort of thing. So,
wow.
Yeah. So that's where the music came from, I guess. Like in our blood is grandfather directing most popular TV show for, 20 years, 30 years or so.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, bandstand's a legacy, man.
For sure. Yeah, especially in Philadelphia.
Yeah. WFIL Studios.
So how did you guys meet? Was it the guys in the band like JP? Did your brother, but the other guys? You did you come up with them?
So JP and I met each other out at Sprout Music Collective.
Okay.
He was in a band called Was It Purple, and they would do open jams on Wednesdays out at Sprout, and I was like, this is a cool thing happening. I like this. Like, I've never been out there. Like, I'm gonna force myself after work on a Wednesday, drive out there, see what's happening. People do open mics. No one really was advertising open jam at that time, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna make it out there. So for a couple weeks, I would hop on the drum kit because like everybody else was doing all the other things. Drums was kind of there's like one guy, maybe two people playing drums.
Right.
I'm a lefty drummer though.
So you can't rearrange everything.
No, and of course when you're first getting into like, hey, I'm Paddy, like nice to meet you. Can I switch to the drums? No, like they're like, dude, you're not playing drums. And I was like, well, I'll just play open-handed and I'll just kind of switch my feet a little bit. And eventually they were like, all right, you're fun, you do fun stuff, you can switch the kit around, all good. But yeah, from that, JP and I probably played like 60 hours of just free improv jamming. Whether I was on bass, guitar, drums. So him and I, we connected, from moment one, and I was just like, dude, we need a guitar player badly. Like, can you sign on for a gig? And that snowballed into, being a permanent member. And we've had a couple of people play bass and drums, but right now we've got Eric Cooper, who's in Funky T, and his partner's Maggie May. Awesome bass player. He's got Koopa Loop. Shout out to Koopa Loop. I think he's opening for Snakes and Stars, which is like a new string cheese side project.
Oh, wow.
It's down at the Milk Boys, so shout out to Coop. He's doing a great job. And then Jeremy Worthington on drums, who's just a total powerhouse on drums. He played with Let's Danza. He's in Catalyst. He was in Bodega back in like
I remember those guys.
2010. Yeah, absolutely killer funk stuff. And him and I have known each other since those Bodega days. And
he's the Muskrat drummer right now.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And him and I have known each other since like 2010 or 11. And it's cool that like we've circled back around when he was free and we needed a drummer, and it just kind of worked out nicely.
Nice.
So yeah, we've been touring with those guys and ripping it up, and man, not looking back, it's just like, oh my god, that show last night was so good, but we're playing tonight, so we don't even have time to listen back to that thing at all. Like, we just got to keep going. Like, eventually we'll have time to listen to that cool audio that we had, but like, we're moving right now, new album and all that kind of stuff. So like, there's really no time to like, rest on your laurels. It's just like, let's just kind of keep riding this, So.
Yeah. So speaking of which, you got probably one of the biggest shows of the band's existence coming up Friday night.
Yeah, 2/24.
Nice.
We're at Ardmore Music Hall with More.
Sweet.
Yeah, More.
I caught their first show online. It was like a live stream that they did from in studio.
Yeah, really cool studio too. It looked like it was pretty sweet. Like,
it did.
They had the ambience going. It was like, very dark and candles lit. It was very vibey.
Yeah. I remember watching it. It was like right here, man. And
Yep.
I'm a fan of Tom Hamilton, and I've known Joe D'Amico for years now. So it's amazing to see him up there. And I guess it's got to be their first time playing Ardmore.
Yeah, definitely. First time playing Ardmore. I think they're doing 2 sets. We're on at 8 o'clock, so we're starting off the night.
Nice.
Make sure you get in there earlier if you go to the Moore show.
Yeah.
It was great, kind of talking with Tom McKee and kind of just, catching up with him. We've kind of known each other through different people over the years and stuff like that. I think my brother Matt may have been at Bonner at the same time, or at least around the same time as Tom McKee. So it was like, all right, cool. Like, it's not so much like Band A doesn't know Band B. It's like, oh, we're kind of like, catching up with each other in a certain way.
Sweet.
So it's a really rewarding moment for us, man. We've been working our butts off.
So Matt is coming up from Asheville for this one.
Oh yeah, he makes it up for every show, man.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you had the caravan. It's like Muskrat without him. Essentially, right?
Yeah. And if like the drummer is busy, then we bring in another drummer, like a Josh Steingart or somebody like that. But yeah, it's just the caravan is also like cover heavy. We've done like different themes for shows. Like we did like all super groups for a set. Just like every band had to be a super group that we covered. So it was like kind of interesting, like seeing the audience be like, what are they doing here? What's the common thread through this whole weird thing? And then we did one where it was all songs with the word one in it. So like every song had to have one. One is we didn't do Metallica's One, and we didn't do One is the Loneliest Number. But we did The One I Love by REM and U2's One.
Right,
And we did One of These Days into the other one into One of These Nights. And like, again, like I'm sure eventually people picked up on it, but they were like, I get it. This is pretty brilliant. And then I think we ended the set with Bare Naked Ladies 1 week, which is a blast of a song. Covering Bare Naked Ladies. What a vibe. So that's what the caravan's got going for it. It's a little bit of a different flavor. We'll play some originals, but the covers are the fun thing for us.
Sweet. So, it always amazes me how quickly this hour goes by, man. Not that we're at the end yet, but I like to leave a little time for some music too.
Oh yeah.
Aside from the show coming up Friday, other things you mentioned about it, recording soon.
Yeah, we're going to be recording in April. We're finishing up our winter tour in March. Playing at the 8x10. We're doing our first 8x10 show.
Love that place. Yeah.
Nice.
Abigail.
We're doing exactly. And that'll be on St. Paddy's Day. So I get to do my feast day at, down at the 8x10. We're playing with Uncle Kunkel's 1 Grand Band. Those guys are really cool. There's like getting bigger out of Baltimore area.
Okay.
And then we're finishing up the winter tour in Richmond. We're doing our first show in Richmond, so I'm stoked for that.
Sweet.
We got a bunch of stuff planned for spring tour as well, so we're gonna be bopping around, man. It's one of those things where it's it's great to be recording and doing album stuff, but the shows must continue, and I always like love thinking about hearing all these accounts of the dead, and like you're like, oh, they must have spent weeks and months just doing nothing. It's like, no, they had 3 days in between that run out in San Fran, and then 2 days in New York, and they're piecing it together, but this wasn't like them taking months off and like, oh, the dead are in the studio now. It's like people got blindsided by like, whoa, they got an album coming out again, like what's going on here? So that's what we'll be doing. Just got to keep doing the road thing, doing the album thing. And
right, are you recording it yourself?
We're going to be down at Spice House down in the city.
Okay.
I know the Disco Biscuits were just down there producing their new stuff. So
okay.
feels like we're in a good spot with Alex Santilli and a lot of those guys. And yeah, I'm excited to take the next chapter on, man. This is, it feels like it's like the proper step in the right direction for us. So.
Very cool. Nice. So are you going to play? Oh, no, I was going to also, Muskrat Flats, obviously, Pride of Cucamonga.
Yeah.
Was that just a favorite tune or what?
That was Matt. Matt came up with the band name. I think it was The Obscurity. I honestly don't know where he... Like, I think in a way he just loved like the timbre of Muskrat Flats. Like, it had like just like a great timbre to it. Uh-huh. But I think he was also like, this isn't like the guy who bought his first Grateful Dead CD or vinyl who, knows 2 songs. He's going to know that reference. Like, it was at least subversive enough of like, do you know Phil Lesh? Are you down with Phil Lesh? Do you know like the coolest songs in the catalog are Phil Lesh songs? Because it's true, man. Like, you bust out a Phil Lesh song. Like, what? Are you kidding me? Like, that's insane.
I remember really digging the cue when they would do Pride of Cucamonga because, Warren would just light up that slide guitar part, where it goes, it sounds like the Hoochie Coochie Man.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that song takes you for a ride. Like, I mean, just like Box of Rain and a lot of those other, you're like, whoa, that decision was bold. That was only a Phil Lesh. Like, no one else would, think to do that. He's just an orchestrator, a composer. He's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a trip that, he was at the Ardmore Music Hall. But, they've had Stanley Clark at the Ardmore Music Hall.
Yeah, man. It's a who's who. I mean, I'm never surprised when I hear about, like, this, that, and the other. Like, I think one of the only ones, like, Neil Casal's the only one I wish I would have seen at Ardmore. Like, totally would have blown my mind. Like, I think I was going to go maybe like an Unlimited Devotion or something like that was going to happen, and I was like,
we were supposed to open for them, and then the show didn't happen. They had to cancel for some reason, so yeah, that was a bummer too.
But I mean, it's just, I always go to Ardmore. It's just a no-brainer, dude. Yeah, like, duh. Like, that was the way with Blockley. Like, we all went to Blockley because we were just like, duh, it's a no-brainer. Friday night, gonna go see whatever, because it's gonna be the dopest show of the week. Like,
totally,
their whole month was just stacked with crazy stuff.
Absolutely, man. I was there in their infantile stages when it was like really light crowds and it was just kind of starting to build momentum,
Yeah.
So I got to see it really kind of go from there to packed houses, and they just had the rug pulled out from under them. It was so sudden, but
I know. But shout outs to Chris, man. Chris Perella is doing it all. Like,
hell yeah.
Oh my goodness, man. The scene, we need more of them in the scene. Like, there's no doubt about that. Like, it's nice to have people who are really looking out for the local scene and the local community too. Mm-hmm. It's like really, really special to me. Like, Ardmore's the best. Love Ardmore.
Yeah, man, for sure. That's freaking Friday. I'm going to see what I can do to make it up for your set, man.
Oh, shucks. That'd be great, dude. I'd love to have you there, man.
I got the kids this weekend, so it might be a little tough, but we'll see. The early set, maybe we could pull it off.
Hey, might throw the headphones on the kids. They can come out and groove, dude,
Totally, man. It's
Muskrats are for the people, for the children. We got a little something for everybody. The bluegrass, the funk, all the above, man.
I believe the children are our future.
That's right, man. Music Has the Rights to Children is the name of an album by Boards of Canada, and I believe music has the rights to children. It absolutely is imperative that music and children are happening, man. I said it to my other brother Bill. I was like, we need to get my nephew Jack just playing some piano. Just throw a piano at him. What's the worst that could happen? Like, he's probably gonna know every key, everything about it, like, in a moment. Give that kid some sort of a musical instrument. Mm-hmm. He will soak it up. And I believe that with kids in any way. It's like, they don't have to play it for all their lives, but like, just introduce it to them. It's like so rewarding. It can build a community, all that kind of stuff. Like, it's real. Like, those school rock type things, like, it builds a community. There's so many kids who play guitar and it's just them in a room by themselves, when you could be hanging out with 2 or 3 kids,
right.
Just starting something, like, get the feel for, what a band feels like and all that stuff. Like it's surreal, man.
For sure. So yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, man. Like the early blues guys were, it was, or even folk, not just blues. It was, no one really knew what it meant to make it in music. You know what I mean? They did it for their friends, their family, you know, and it wasn't about that.
I watched a Bill Monroe documentary recently, and he was like a tap dancer. Like, fiddle was part of it or whatever, but it was like that. It was the entertainment. It was, you could do it for your cousins, your friends, like all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Like there was kind of like a boiled down to, it's entertainment. It's something fun, and if that guy can keep a rhythm on his feet and also play an instrument. Sold. I know John Harford used to do that as well, and I think like some of those early jazz guys as well were keeping it simple. Keep it simple.
That's right. I have an easy time doing that when it comes to music.
Same.
Oh man! But speaking of which, you're gonna play a tune or two?
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. I brought this guitar with me just in case. You know what? It's funny. We played a couple of different. We played like at at Rob's thing last week, and I was like, oh man, should we play songs that like are gonna be on the Ardmore set list? They're not gonna be on the Ardmore set list. I was like, in my own head about this, and I was like, we're in studio, who cares? Like, just play whatever you feel, play whatever's fun. Like, we did a song that's like, not even gonna be on the next album, it'll be on the one after it. But I was like, it's a fun, chill song, let's do it.
Yeah, play whatever you want, man, for sure. And whatever you play, even if it's on the same set, it'll sound different with the whole band.
That's what I mean. Like, I was like, I'm so in my own head about jam scene stuff sometimes. I'm like, they will never forgive me for playing that bluegrass tune. But nah, it's all good. This first one's called In Her Arms. Keep me safe from harm, resist the devil's charm. It crumbles when I'm in her arms. Crash on the shore, the fire yearns for more, the smoke blots out the morning light. Keep me safe from harm, resist the devil's charm. It crumbles when I'm in her arms.
Very nice.
Thank you. I think that might have been the first song that I wrote for the new album.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like two years old, I think, at this point.
All right.
It's just crazy to think of a song that's like, not released being 2 years old.
Been around for that long. Yeah.
But, it's had its time in the pecking order, like songs don't always have to get debuted, and songs do get debuted that, there's no like right and wrong when it comes to the jam scene. Like, you can play a song live, plenty of times and then put it on an album. You can play a song no times and then debut it after the album. So, I'm gonna do one more for you. I'll do a song called "Shape Up Woman."
Okay.
It's a bluesier song.
I've covered this one before, so that's pretty deep, man. All right, cool.
Wait, no. Have you really? This is
the Shape Up Woman?
Shit.
Shape Up Woman, right?
Shape Up Woman.
Yeah.
Wait, no, this is an original.
Oh, it is? Oh, is it? Okay, no, totally different.
I need to do my research. Do I know that I wrote
I
a song?
thought you were saying it was a cover. No, there's
that's hilarious.
No, it's the Clean Up Woman, I think, is the tune I'm thinking of. All right, cool.
Yeah.
Well, nonetheless, have at it.
I was going to say, the vibe is there. The sentiment is there. And I had to learn. Took me a good-hearted woman. She treated me oh so sweet and so stern. No more mornings with a train running through my head. No more nights taking back I got me a shape up woman. She knows just how far I'll go. Got me a shape up woman. Got me on straight and narrow. Straight and narrow. Shape up, shape up, shape up a woman. Shape up, shape up, shape up a man. Shape up, shape up, shape up a woman. Shape up, better shape up, man. She knows just how far I'll go. I got me a shape of a woman, got me all straight and narrow.
All right, nice.
Thanks, man.
That's cool. Some nice funky changes going on. Well, thank you very much, Paddy McCann,
Dude,
for being here.
So much fun, man.
Yeah.
Loving it.
Great
Loving
talk.
it.
We're getting deeper every week. Again, just real quick, all these shows are brought to you by ilovemarksinger.com, which is something I do, and I have a passion for is helping friends, especially friends that maybe have never owned, and may have questions. Please don't hesitate to reach out. I want to be a good resource to people, especially as we go into the future. It's very helpful to solidify, your place to live and give you a little financial future. Hopefully get out and get ahead, which is getting harder to do. So reach out to me in a DM, private message if you have any questions, or you can reach me at my website, ilovemarksinger.com. Next week's guest I'm looking forward to is Danny Mayer. Known him a really long time. Funny story about that. And I'm really excited to have him. And catch Muskrat Flats Friday at the Ardmore Music Hall, opening for Tom Hamilton's More. And again, thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you for episode 8 next week, Monday at 7 o'clock. Have a good one.